Newcastle United have pulled off a massive victory, beating Manchester City by 2-1, and in this video we're going to be breaking down how they did it. We're going to be taking a look at the tactics that Newcastle used to try to stop Manchester City's new attacking protocols, and we're going to be taking a look at those all-important goals that got them this crucial win. Newcastle were absolutely fantastic in this game. They created 6 big chances, and if it wasn't for some really good Donnarumma saves, they should have scored a few more goals. But they were only able to do that due to the way that they looked to stifle Manchester City's new attacking protocols. And that began with looking towards the way they built, utilising almost a narrow 5-man midfield, bringing in the 2 wingers and really looking to build using those 3 deeper midfielders of Silva, Foden and Nico. As you have those 2 wingers move in so centrally, you're overloading the centre of the park, looking to really progress the ball through into Erling Haaland. This is where the second layer of that building phase comes in. And then the width, because of the narrowness of your wingers, then comes from both of your fullbacks. This is how they like to go forwards now, and this is how they like to really orchestrate their attacks. To try and stop this, what Newcastle did was push on their midfield 3, utilise one of their best assets in their physicality to push themselves onto that deeper Manchester City midfield 3. So you had Joe Linton onto Foden, Bruno Guimaraes onto Nico, and Tonali onto Bernardo Silva. This is then compounded with the way that they wanted to press, whether it be on the right hand side or the left hand side. In this particular instance, we're going from left to right. So Newcastle are pressing up towards Gvardiol with the ball and over towards this right hand side. To compound this even further, Livramento and Hall, who both played incredibly crucial roles from fullback, looked to position themselves a little bit more narrow onto both Doku and Shirky, essentially creating a man-mark system where they look to really prevent the progression to the central areas. This is seen really well right here. Look at the positioning of Joe Linton, Tonali, and of course of Bruno Guimaraes. They're really onto those Manchester City midfield 3. And then look at Hall and Livramento, a little bit tucked in, a little bit narrow to follow the movements of those 2 wingers. It's then allowing the rest of the Newcastle side to start to press, and it was from this that they were able to turn over the ball higher into Manchester City's half, allowing for Newcastle to start to create their attacking momentum. And it was from that particular scenario that Newcastle were able to create this chance. The ball gets won back by Livramento and he plays it into Voltemade. Notice how tight Gvardiol is to Voltemade. This is good in a way because it drags away the Manchester City centre-back and leaves up a channel of space. Newcastle really like to overload the wide areas and really push it forwards to then get the ball back into the box for runners looking to enter in late. As the ball goes into Voltemade, look how he's dragging Gvardiol away from his defensive position. It gets played into Bruno Guimaraes, but then look at what you've got here. You've got Livramento driving forwards, you've got Murphy driving forwards, and you've got Tonali moving in behind Bernardo Silva. This is really, really good. Newcastle moving forwards, Newcastle being direct after creating that moment of space. Then it's about crossing the ball into the box, and look at how Harvey Barnes has managed to get himself away from Matheus Nunes. This is a fantastic opportunity, and if it wasn't for a little bit better finishing, it should have been a Newcastle goal. But this is just a small example of the way that Newcastle were able to create those defensive tendencies and turn them into great attacking opportunities. And it was through that aggression, tenacity and intensity that led to Newcastle's first goal. Take a look at this. This is from a goal kick going over the top. Joe Linton wins the ball, but it goes over towards the Manchester City defensive line. As they retreat to try and get it back, look at the intensity from these 3 Newcastle players looking to press. I thought Tonali was absolutely sensational, but all 3 of them here really do a good job of applying pressure onto Nico O'Reilly as he looks to play a ball away and clear it. It's a blind pass, which means he doesn't exactly know where it's going to go. The ball gets picked up, the second ball gets picked up crucially by Joe Linton, and with Bruno Guimaraes they managed to get it through into Harvey Barnes. This is where it starts to get really dangerous from Man City, especially with Bruno Guimaraes looking to make an extra run. Notice Lewis Hall as well on that far side. His energy was absolutely pivotal in making making sure that he dragged away players like Mateus Nunes to give his attackers a little bit more time and a little bit more space. As they create this little moment and this little opportunity through some really good interplay, they find themselves creating a really dynamic situation. I mean, look at this. This is so impressive. You've got essentially 5 Newcastle attackers onto these 3 Man City attackers. It goes in towards the middle, over towards Harvey Barnes, who has the composure to be able to lay it into that bottom left-hand corner. But notice the other option that he's got as well. Although he manages to score this goal in another instance or in another way that he looks to create this chance, he can pass to Tonali or over towards Jacob Murphy. This Newcastle side was so dangerous going forwards, and this is yet again another example, but it is a fantastic goal that was scored by Newcastle's winger. Manchester City get a goal back soon after Newcastle's opener, but it was those same qualities that appeared for Newcastle's second, which ended up being the game winner. It starts with a corner right here. It's about to get whipped in, but I want to draw your attention to the movement of Lewis Hall just in front of these Manchester City players at the front post. Look at how he's sprinting away from the particular area, and this is because he wants to drag these Manchester City players towards the front post, and then once that happens, they know that the ball is going to be whipped in towards the back post. So Lewis Hall is taking up a different position on the outside of the box. He's going to have a pivotal role a little bit later. So as the ball gets whipped in, what you've now got is Donnarumma being sucked in towards the front of the box. Look at how all of these players are really congregating towards the front area of this post or of this goal. It goes over towards the back post and ends up getting cleared by Gvardiol. Lewis Hall manages to bring the ball back over and head it over towards Harvey Barnes. Now, notice the positioning of Barnes, because he's going to make some really good movement to get himself into the centre of the box, but that comes a little bit later. Notice the positioning of Jacob Murphy. The ball gets laid over to Murphy and he's going to cross it into the box. What we've now got is another phase of play, because you've got 3 Newcastle players coming round the back. Look at how Mateus Nunes is completely overwhelmed here. He's completely outnumbered, and this is heavily in Newcastle's favour. So as the ball gets whipped in, you've got 3 Newcastle players ready to head it back across, and you've got Bruno Guimaraes on that far post. Guimaraes manages to get his head onto it in pretty brilliant fashion, but it hits the crossbar. It goes over towards Harvey Barnes, who's made his way into that central zone. You can't get the goal if you're not in the danger area. He read the danger and he understood where the threat could be. He is that threat, and he managed to score in pretty brilliant fashion. It's again another really well worked goal by Newcastle, showcasing a completely new set of qualities, but still relying on that foundation of tenacity, intensity, and just all round quality. Brilliant. Newcastle weren't quite done there though, because Eddie Howe had one more piece of tactical flexibility up his sleeve. Instead of sticking with that 4 at the back system, he decided to change to a 5 at the back, substituting off Lewis Hall and a number of other players and creating this, essentially a 5-4-1, having Elanga as that sole striker, Murphy moving over towards that left hand side as a left wing back, and having a midfield 4 of Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton and Joe Willock. But the condensing of the pitch was absolutely essential, because what it meant is that when Man City made their substitutions and started to move forwards, the space in between the lines of these Newcastle players just wasn't there. They couldn't get the ball to these really dangerous players in these incredibly dangerous scenarios, and it meant that a lot of the joy that Manchester City had came out wide, and this meant that crosses came through, but it also meant that once those crosses came back out, you had counter-attacking opportunities, and it was these opportunities that led to a number of Newcastle chances going back the other way. Defensively resolute, and the ability to be that little bit more dangerous going forwards. And here you've got a really good example. Look at these Newcastle players. You've got that 5 at the back, you've got Botman, you've got Cher, and you've got Thiaw, you've got Livramento on that one side, Murphy on that other, and those midfield 4 just screening across. Really, really good, and Newcastle get a sensational win. But of course, guys, and let me know what you think in the comment section below on Newcastle and on Man City. What did you make of the game? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.